All right, so the next project we're working on, let's move this box of parts and pull it in. Here it is, the next big project, 2001 BMW 330xi, and it needs a whole lot of stuff. But what we're working on today is I think the valve cover gasket is leaking because sitting, it doesn't use any oil, but when you run, it's smoking really bad. You shut the car off, it's still smoking, which tells me that oil is being pumped to the top end of the engine. And even after you shut it down, it's still up there and it's leaking past the valve cover onto the exhaust manifold. So we're going to pull the valve cover off and we have a new gasket that we're going to throw on. So let's get started. So to get these guys here out, there's just two little slots in each side to get a straight blade screwdriver in there. Carefully pry it up. All this plastic, it's a 01. It's all kind of brittle. But underneath these, you have a 10 millimeter here, a 10 millimeter there, and then the same thing. You'll pull the oil filler cap here, and then you'll have two more there, also 10 millimeter. Then these two will be out of your way. All right, next we're going to squeeze the top and bottom together. I've already broken this one loose. It was a real pain in the butt. But you're going to squeeze these together. It'll open up these side clips, and then you just pull that way. Not too hard because, again, all this plastic is brittle. Moving to the O2 sensors, pull them out of their little retainers, and then just pop them open and pull them apart. And apart. Next we'll be removing these clips off of the wires that go to your coils. Work your way down. As you can see on this one, I already have it removed. It's kind of like a cam lock. As you push the connector, the silver retainer down, it pulls the plug into the coil and locks it in. So with it fully extended up, you're able to pull the connector straight out. If you don't have this pulled all the way up, you're not going to be able to get the connector out because there's little ears on there that keep the plug with these little tabs from pulling past. Next is an 8mm grounding wire. Then very carefully work your way down this wiring harness here in the plastic. It'll all come out as one unit here. And on toward the outside, to the passenger side, kind of outside, are little plastic clips. So you just want to try and give it enough love to pop it out, but not break them. Kinda, they're like this, one on the inside and then one on the outside, and then those are like little clips, and then on the actual wiring loom plastic here, it's got little tabs, and they lock into there. You see here's the little tabs that the clips lock into, or clips the tabs lock into, whatever. In an effort to put everything back where it came from, we didn't have problems before, so we're gonna just, starting front to rear, I'm gonna label them. With my Sharpie. Then we're gonna start removing the coils, and I've already broken all of these loose, but they're all gonna be 10 millimeter as well. And on the front and the rearmost coil, you have a grounding strap. So don't forget to put that back on when you drop the coils back in. And before we put these back in, we're going to put some dielectric grease in there. Hopefully they all come out that easy. I'm seeing a little bit of oil seepage up here, and I think what it is up here are these grommets for the studs that go through the center of the valve cover, but we'll keep pulling it off. We're gonna replace it all anyway. I got the full valve cover set, the grommets and everything, so I didn't want to have to do this again anytime in the near future. Our next step's going to be pulling these two grounding cables. It's a 8mm. Like I said, we've got them on the front and the back. So make sure you get them both. Then we're going to pull all of these center studs, which are the ones that I think I'm getting a little bit of seepage through. And that should be a 10mm, if I can find where I put it. All right, pulled those studs out. You can see right here, they have washers on top of the rubber grommets. So we're going to take our magnet, see which ones want to come freely. if they fell into the spark plug hole, it probably wouldn't be the biggest deal, but it could be. If it turns sideways and gets in there like this, we're not going to be able to get our socket around there, and then if it wedges in there, even the magnet might not pull it out. So we're just going to pull them out of the way just to play it safe. Next up, we're going to go around the outer edge and remove all of these 10 millimeter caps as well. I've already broken them loose with the ratchet, so now we're just going to do them with the old socket screwdriver attachment. Alright, now that we have all those nuts or caps that we're holding this valve cover on, one of the last things we have to do is remove this vacuum line from the clips around it and any remaining wiring harness your O2 sensor may have been hooked into. And then we want to start prying it up. And let's get some. These dang washers just keep popping up. I thought I had all of them. There we are. Valve cover is off. Now it's time to clean up this mating surface. Pull the old gasket off of the valve cover and reinstall. One thing you can see is the collection of oil out here where there shouldn't be, because the gasket seals, you know, on this flat mating surface. But as you can see along here, you've got a collection of oil and grease buildup there. So it's just oil and then dirt from driving down the road grime. You can see it collecting up down here on that air tube. Road grime will collect up on it. So you can see this was, you know, oil past all this. And that's what I think is the main cause of our oil loss and the smoking coming from the engine bay. I mean, same thing all the way back here. You got road grime built up on that edge right there where it shouldn't be. If there's nothing for the dirt to stick to, then, I mean, it won't collect like that. But if there's oily residue, then it's gonna start caking up on you. Cutting toward myself, bad practice. One thing I just wanted to show. If you come over here, you'll see these pieces remaining. Oop, don't drop it. And that is actually part of the new gasket kit that comes. You can see here I've set it down on the valve cover. So this is one of the things you need to make sure that you're pulling out is this old gasket, which, as you can see, it's super brittle. So that piece belongs right here, like that. And this piece here, I'm gonna wait to pull it off until I have two hands because I don't want to drop it in here, but it belongs right here where it's missing. You can see here. And then this piece back here, it too is still stuck back here on the cylinder head. right there. But you can see how brittle that is compared to its replacement.
Northbound and southbound I-25, still seeing a nice
We just put a little gray gasket maker on these sharp edges here. The ones that will meet up with these corners, just to help it seal up a little bit. And then same on the back side. All 4 of these little sharp corners here, they also got a gasket maker. So we got it all on there. We're ready to set it on top of the cylinder head. I also picked up all these new grommets to replace these old ones. Let's do a side by side. See if we can tell a big difference. Oh yeah, quite a bit. So let's see. Yep, so these are the new ones. They're nice and squishy now. The old ones were dry. So we're gonna go around and set these on, and then they get the washers. So let's go ahead and put these new grommets on. They'll go in the center as well. We'll get this valve cover torqued down, and then we will start looking at pulling these spark plugs out. I didn't want to pull the spark plugs out with the valve cover off, just in case there's dirt down in the hole where the spark plug is, or just if any part of the spark plug falls off. I don't want a piece of ceramic going down into the, through the valve train into the pan. So once we get this torqued down, then we'll pull the spark plugs and replace them. Anyway, petroleum jelly. You could use some dielectric grease, which is what I'm using because it's what I have in the garage. You don't want to tighten any of them down until you have them all on there, and that'll help you align it so all of the mating surfaces are in the right spots. Alright, these call for 6 foot-pounds of torque. My foot-pound torque wrench doesn't go that low, so we're going to go inch-pounds. 6 times 12 is 72 inch-pounds. So this is a nerve-wracking part of changing spark plugs, is when you put a 3/8 inch ratchet on there and you don't have enough leverage to get it to come loose. So the torque rating on these is supposed to be somewhere between like 20 pound-feet and 24. The internet varies on what the manual says, what BMW says now, whatever. They also say don't use anti-seize, but we've got a 1/2 inch ratchet on here. And when we put these back in, we're going to just put anti-seize on them. I don't really care what the internet necessarily says on that. So let's see how much force it takes to get this first spark plug to break loose. All right. Like I said, we're gonna put anti-seize on them, shove them back in there. I've never had any problems with anti-seize before on spark plugs. I put it on pretty much all of my vehicles that I pull spark plugs on that have spark plugs. I also own a lot of diesels, but I've never had an issue. What I have had an issue with is getting spark plugs out of blocks that have been in there a while. That probably won't be a problem that I have to worry about on this vehicle, but at least I'll help the next guy out. But we're not gonna overdo it. We're just gonna put a little bit on these threads. As you thread it in, it'll work its way around. And I figure a little is better than none, and a little is better than too much. So we've got our spark plug socket on here, and it's got the rubber in it. So it's a lot easier to help get it back in the hole, because it'll stay in the socket. And I've mentioned this before in some of my other videos. Instead of just shoving something especially as important as this, I cross-threaded a spark plug on my 1983 Z50 when I was 5, trying to change a spark plug out myself. But instead of just shoving it in the hole and going straight to tightening it down, put it in the hole gently, and if you turn it backwards like you're unscrewing it, you'll feel a click, and that's where these leading threads here are lining up with the leading receiving threads in the spark plug hole. There, and now you can start going forward. And now you know your threads are aligned and you're not forcing anything. So if you cross thread one of these holes, you're going to be looking at taking this to a machine shop or a new cylinder head. So like I said, there's talk online about torque multiplication with wet threads versus dry threads. BMW calls for between 19 and change and 24 pound-feet. So we're just going to shoot for the low end with a little bit of thread locker, and I'm sure everything will be just fine. That feels pretty good. I'm happy with that. All right, we're gonna do the reverse threading one more time, and then I'll shut up about it. Oh, there it was. We'll go back around. Should be coming up right here in a second. Right there. Do it from this angle. So when this is at the about 11 o'clock, that corner right there, that's where the threads are aligning. So there it is, the 6, 3, 1, approaching the 12, and then watch it the 11. Between the 11 and 12 o'clock, you'll hear it click. Right there. And then now you know your threads are aligned. Alright, enough about that. Everybody gets the point. It's just a little trick that I learned a long time ago, and I like to share it. cars that don't have these fancy covers that go over the engine here, or anything that's been off-roaded, taken through a bunch of mud, deep water, and you have these spark plugs that go down into the cylinder head, like recessed into the cylinder head. A lot of times, these are really clean. This car's probably never seen real dirt yet. You guys will see that in the coming days, what this car is going to be turned into. But cars that do see a lot of dirt or have been submerged, these holes will be plugged up. Even if they have the coil on plug kind of coils with the boots, unless you or the previous owner caked them in like that dielectric grease or petroleum jelly or something to block the water and dirt from entering, these holes are going to be just full of sand and dirt and mud. So one thing you want to do before you ever pull a spark plug, because if that dirt and stuff is down in there and you pull the spark plug out, you're knocking it all loose. All that is going to go straight down into your cylinder, and you know, it could affect your valve seats, it could affect your cylinder walls, the seal that your piston rings have against the cylinder walls. So what you want to do is you want to try and clean those out, be it with carefully blocking it, some brake clean and compressed air, or some water. But once you pull the coils off, it's best to clean that out before you ever pull these. Like I said, these are pretty much spotless because this is a street car for now, and it has the cover that goes over it, and it was never submerged, so it's not a problem. But if you look at these, they really don't even have a seal. Let's see that kind of seals it a little bit, but like I was saying, I keep talking about this 5.4 Triton. It had flanges, and every time I had to do the plugs on that, because I would take it down a lot of dirt roads and stuff, hunting or fishing or whatever, every time I pulled the plugs, there'd just be a ton of like dust and dirt, sand inside of these plug wells. So I'd have to clean it all out because I didn't want that stuff in my engine. All right, last plug. And we'll torque them all down. Pretty much reassembly is going to be reverse of disassembly from here. We threw the spark plug job in there at the same time as the gasket for the valve cover. So I guess we will start with, let's drop the coils back on. All right, next should be the harness. sure she's good in there. This grounding wire on that remaining stud. That nut will be this little guy right there, and it's 8mm. Now this one's going to be a bit of a pain, especially with the gloves on. Just don't want to drop it, then you'll be fishing it with the magnet. All right, we're good. So you can see here these grooves that those little posts go into. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. It's wrong-handed too, right-handed. Oh God, don't mess it up. We could even throw a little dielectric grease in these to help protect them. Oh my goodness. Ah, that tag's in the way. Look how easy that was now. All right, and then you just push it down. Locks it in. Try and show a better view of this one. Secure. I'm going back and pulling these first 3 that I installed because I want to put dielectric grease on them. They have rubber seals on the outer plug, which is great. This is just another level of protection against moisture. There's no telling what this car will see in its future, so it's not going to be fording any rivers. There's plenty of electronics in here that I'm not going to pull and grease up. But since I have these off and I have dielectric grease, I might as well throw it on there because it'll make me feel better. Vacuum hose and O2 sensor wires are back in their homes. Next will be the engine cover, which I placed over there so it would dry. So let me go grab that. One more thing, since this engine has 120 some odd thousand miles on it, there was a little bit of gunk buildup in the valve cover, which appeared to be coming out of this tube. We're gonna add a little sea foam into the crankcase, and then we're gonna replace the fuel filter, and we'll put some in that too to help clean out the injectors. But who knows? We're gonna give it a shot though. It says 1 ounce per quart of oil, so we'll go with that much. We'll run it like that for a day or 2, and then like I said, we're gonna do an oil change anyway. So let that run through, do what it says it does, or not, and then maybe we'll clean the engine up a little bit. Now, that's it. Good night.